If you had to define what your current religious beliefs are, what would they be?
I think I believe in a universal religion that's unfortunately hidden, and in which I believe there's one creator that's not nameable, that's very subtle, very ethereal, and that all the world's religion tends to bring, the worshipping back to that same God, But actually, without mentioning any religion in particular, I think I believe in the truth behind, at the source of everything, So it's a personal religion that in which I believe with all the elements I've studied in different school of thoughts,
What religion were you brought up with as a child, and when did you make the transition from that religion to your interest in theology?
I was brought up with. I wasn't brought up actually in any religious beliefs. My parents were not really practicing any religious. They were not really into religion. It's something that really came from inside. So right now, that's where I am.
When you see people
Mm-hmm.
who are practicing whatevers, regardless of the religion, but they practice it day in and day out, and they're very devoted and very loyal to their particular religion.
Mm-hmm.
What goes through your mind, given that you've studied theology?
Well, I see that nothing is new under the sun, like King Solomon said. That there's the potentiality of religion, and through history, everything's being recycled. For example, we see that in the past 10 years that there's a big revival for piercing and tattoos, for instance. And people are like, oh, this is a modern phenomenon. Well, in fact, it's not, because in the ancient times, it used to be part of religious cults. And they used to be very, very strong and very done across, the Middle Eastern and, ancient civilizations. So when I see that, I'm just noticing that it's just renewed, It's just like people today are doing stuff and they don't really know the hidden meaning, but these forces are still being worshipped in an indirect way,
Now let's make the connection between your studies in theology and your apocalyptic circus.
Okay.
And did your studies in theology inspire your circus idea?
Definitely. Yeah, I was very... My favorite topic was the actual understanding of the harmony between good and evil in everything, the combination of inverse polarity, and to understand that if there was a God, then it wouldn't be just a God of good, that it must have been a unity between good and evil. So it led me to studying something that's called Kabbalah, which I'm really fascinated by, which is the mystical aspect of Judaism. And in these studies, I started understanding that there's no light and there's no darkness. It's only part of one thing, and it kind of gave me the idea for all that apocalyptic concept, where trying to find light in darkness and trying to find darkness in light, and understand that everything is linked. So yes, it did inspire me for music. So a lot of my text and my concepts were based on different things I've studied, or that I wanted to put in a musical form.
Working as a DJ.
Yes.
You're working for a number of different communities out there, a number of different styles of music. Having this background in theology, do you ever find yourself forming an opinion or judgments on the people that attend the events that you're DJing?
I wouldn't say so. I just I'm always pleased in a positive way to see, like I mentioned the tattoos as an example. I'm doing a lot of I'm implicated in the BDSM scene for a couple of years, and as people must think most of the time, there's a conflict between having original sexual practices and the actual Judeo-Christian teaching. And having studied what I have studied, I think that there's not that much conflict between both, because it's something that's old as humanity. So whenever I'm doing these events, I always see a spiritual side, the passion when, for instance, in BDSM, that people put towards, the way of dressing and the way they're into it, it's almost a religious, it's almost a worshipping state, So I try to see these parallels, but never judgmental or never, never preaching. It's not, I think preaching is a man-made thing, and that the religion at the base are not focused around that,
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and we'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, do you want the man in your life to understand you on your level? Do you want your man to be able to listen to and address all of your emotional needs? Show him how much you really want your relationship to be the best it can be. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test makes a perfect gift. The book, written by a man, for men, is endorsed by every woman that reads it. This book is a guide for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the book, I'm a Man, That's My Job, The Philosophy of a Seducer. Your inner game is as unique and personal as your signature or your fingerprints. This book provides you with the means to create your own seduction persona. By this, learn what it means to be a man and attract the women you want. Learn about how men and women think differently and how to take the lead in a relationship. This book is for you at franktalks.com.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio today with DJ Faith, and this interesting gentleman is going to share a little bit of his life with us. Welcome back to studio, DJ Faith.
Thank you, Frank.
I find it so interesting, and we had just touched upon it near the end of the last interview segment. You have a background in theology, you have an interest in the study of religions, and here you are, a DJ, playing music in events of alternative communities.
Yes.
And rather than be judgmental or negative on it, you actually see a positive in this.
Of course I do.
And I'd like you to talk to me about other people, or what would you say? That's the question. What would you say if someone who is very religious is looking in on these communities and has something negative to say, given that you are a theologist? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that the biggest mistake that people, believe today is that there's separate entities of good and evil. Because what I believe is that the actual problem, if you want to talk about the fall of man and, the original sin, is that good and evil got intertwined as one, and they're not, you cannot distinguish one from the other, and that's what the era in which we're living in. So when somebody would tell me, hey, what are you doing, doing events and, some decadent things as, let's say, BDSM, I tell them, well, you're wrong, because, there's sparkles of light in every aspect of creation, as much as in what you may call the dark side, as much as in the light side. So for me, being there doesn't mean that I'm actually, falling. It means that, I'm there and I could even see some positive, almost spiritual aspects in some of these events and some of these, communities. So for me, being there is something that's very positive. I wouldn't think that I could get preached at or, So yeah, basically.